those of you who don't know or didn't go to any of the events, David Bartels is a good friend. He does short sale processing out in the Valley. Gosh, I don't even know where to begin. He's closed thousands and thousands and thousands of short sales. And we did a webinar last week. And I was thinking to myself, gee, let's bring him into our little room that is way laid back, because I think you guys are still processing too many short sales. I mean, that's my general rule of thumb. I think everybody processes too many short sales. How long have you been doing it since the beginning, right, David? You've been doing it since about 2007 or 8?
Well, no, I didn't get started until 2009.
Okay.
And, in March of 2009, I did my first short sale, which was some rental property that second home I had in Orlando, Florida.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how'd you wind up in the Valley?
Well, I was working here. I had started a company called Guaranteed Loan Modification, and we had invented no upfront fee loan mods. Because in the height of the loan modification scams, where people were taking money and not getting doing loan mods, I said, well, let's do loan mods, but we won't charge until we get them approved. And then I figured out why everybody was charging up front for loan mods.
Yeah, my ex-business partner over at Short Sale Genius had the same theory. I can't tell you how many offices. Yeah, we'll do loan mods. We'll do them for free. We'll get paid on the backside, or we'll have a drip campaign into doing short sales. I don't know anybody who has run that model successfully.
Yeah,
I have yet, and I still run into everybody once in a while. In fact, I just met someone up in San Jose, and this woman's like, I always try to help them with their loan mods. I'm like, why are you doing all this free? What am I missing about this?
Yeah.
The people keep going back to this well of trying to do the loan mods up on the front side instead of just script them down. Can't script them down.
Yeah.
Then, what am I missing?
So now what I do is I still do loan mods for people once in a while, but you've got to be pretty connected to me, or connected to somebody who's connected to me. It's a I know a guy kind of thing. But I don't actually do it. I'll just consult with them. And most of the time, 90% of the time, I sit down and they're reviewing their options between loan mod or short sale or foreclosure or deed in lieu. And we go through them, and we're able to show them specifically why they're not eligible for a loan modification. And so we basically use the loan modification to eliminate loan modification as an option, which moves them into the short sale.
Yeah, I completely get that. So you move into doing short sales, and did you do it the hard way? Did you do it knuckles up and, as they say, just sort of jump and dive right into them?
Well, the first one, I had no idea what I was doing. It was my own, and I had somebody helping me who had never done one. So I just kind of, I sold my house. I sold it on my own, basically. And I did a for sale by owner because I'm stubborn that way. And I just didn't understand it. And when I was winding down the loan mod business, I sent a letter out to everybody saying, hey, if you're in foreclosure, we'd like to help you. We'd like to see you avoid foreclosure. I didn't know what I was going to do. I just was focused on keeping them out of foreclosure. So I had a handful of people call me, and they said, hey, we're in foreclosure. What do we do? And I said, well, I have a friend who's an investor, and he buys houses. Let me just call him and see if he's interested. And I did, and he did, and he was. And so I negotiated the first handful of them for free just as a courtesy to winding down this business and not want to have any residual liability, so to speak, even though I didn't collect any fees. I just wanted to have a clean exit. And after doing a couple of those and into my first handful, I said, well, maybe people would pay us to do it. So I started looking around, and we ended up inventing a model because I wasn't smart enough to do it the way everybody else did. I invented a model where we figured out how to get the banks to pay our fees 70% of the time, so we don't even charge the agents the majority of the time when we do it. And, of course, when you have a model like that and you start doing a handful of deals, then you just get overwhelmed with transaction when agents are, will let you do the work and they don't have to pay you.
Right.
And it just steamrolled from there.
Yeah, and the reason, for those of you who don't know, who didn't go to Anaheim, David came out to Anaheim. There is a kindred spirit between David and I. He and I operate sort of the same way, which is we don't ever go up on stage and do this big sales hype of why you should hire us. David operates sort of from the same plateau that I do, which is I don't care who goes on the stage. I'm going to explain short sale processing and the short sale process better than anyone else. And I absolutely respect that. In fact, I think we had debated because David had bought a table at Anaheim. I said, somebody just offered us an obscene amount of money who's a short sale processor, because I don't care. I'm going to go on stage and blow them away anyway. And that's so awesome to me because I think that you need a level of confidence with processing and dealing with lunatics like me when it comes to dealing with short sales. I think people don't really get this, and I tell the people on this call, I tell the people I coach, I tell people in seminars, you don't want to deal with me. I mean, and they think it's like a joke or a hype. You're just being really extreme. Most of the time, I would say that short sales are fairly run-of-the-mill these days. But in the past, every once in a while, you wind up with a real asset manager. Is it any hype to have to escalate and deal with somebody as insane as me?
Oh no, it happens. In fact, I've been on. I'm just lucky. I was afraid I wasn't going to be available for the call because I have a deal that's closing in Colorado from one of your students, by the way, Barb. You know Barb.
Yes, Colorado Barb.
Yeah, and so Barb sent me an impossible deal that had got turned down, and so she called you and Diana, and Diana said, well, just call Bartels. So they called me, and we took a dead deal. We put it back together, but it still had some hair on it because the title company wanted to have it approved again after we had gotten it approved, and 15 minutes before the call, we got it approved, and it's now closing at 4:00 today. But
awesome.
that was but it was a problem getting the HUD done because we had to escalate to the manager who didn't like, what we were calling the fees and what line the fees were on, and just meticulous nitpicking stuff that makes you want to just put your head through a wall. But we got it done, and it's closing. And Barb would tell you that deal never would have got funded if she didn't take your advice and get us involved in the deal.
Awesome. What's the number? Oh, this is going to sound like a sales pitch. What's your number for everybody who's got the problem child file? Well, I always say this is the best, and I mean this in a good way. All of you have a problem child file. The best way to test anybody who does short sale processing, hand over a problem child, okay? And if somebody knocks it out of the park for you, that's the security you need. Just turn them all over. Test it. Yeah. Give them a file.
Well, that's what I tell people too. Give us the deal that's been turned down 4 times and nobody can get it done or nobody wants to accept it. We accept everything and we get them done. I mean, we miss a deal here or there, but there are some things you just can't overcome, conditions you can't overcome. But we generally can figure out how to structure it, and sometimes we have to change buyers to get it done, like we did with Bart's deal. We had to restructure the deal and go get a new buyer under the new deal structure, but we did that and we got it done. So, it's not always cut and dry. It's not like I have a magic wand and we just wave it over the file and we have some magic communication skill with the negotiator or the asset manager and we're able to get it done. Sometimes it requires doing the deal over. But if you do it over the way we say to do the deal, it will get done, which is still better than a dead deal.
Yeah. Diana put bromance up on the screen in the chat bar. Yeah, David and I clearly we're like kindred spirits torn away from each other. We hate all the same people. We try to play the political game better than everyone else. We attack everybody else behind the scenes. I'm afraid to go have a drink with David because all we do is just rail on everybody else. It's so true. Oh my gosh, we're so ridiculous.
So anyway, how do they reach me? If they want to, my phone number, here's my direct line. This rings to my cell and my office. The secret, everyone should know in advance that I'm hard to reach, okay, on the first try. But if you'll leave a message, I will call you back. I call everybody back. So my direct line, if it rings to my cell phone and then to my office is 818-584-8255. That's 818-584-6830. And we're helping agents all over the country. And listen, you don't have to send me a deal to get my attention. If you just have a question about a deal, Lee, your students are welcome to call me, and I'll answer questions without, I don't charge people to answer questions. I just want to help them get their deal done, and when they get a tough deal, maybe they'll think of us, and it has residual benefit down the road. So I'm just there to answer their questions and help them get through a deal that they may already be working on.
Yes, I saw Christine Pollard's question. She's like, I'd learn to have a love to postpone with the sale date given. Yeah, you call David and give him the deal and let him postpone it and let him do the short sale.
Yeah,
I mean,
Is
it usually starting the short sale, or is it, the fake BK routine? Which one do you prefer? What's more? Sorry, did I say that out loud?
I don't like hijack BK deals at all. So we really tried to avoid them. I did some of those by accident, by the way, where we used did a qualified written request, and next thing you know, the sale gets postponed, and when I say we, I hired a firm, which makes me accountable to some extent, I guess.
Yes.
But, to do a qualified written request, and next thing you know, the deal's in BK, and then we're getting a copy of the deeds, and it's all forged, and it's scary stuff. And so we don't use those vendors anymore. So but the bottom line is that we do it. Everything that we do is legitimate. Every dollar is on the HUD. Everything is disclosed to all the parties. All the addendums go to all the parties. There's no sleight of hand in what we do right here. And we postpone. One of the things that we do routinely is postpone foreclosures, because one of the biggest obstacles that agents have is that they could get the deal done if they just had more time. And so one of the services that we do is we get you more time by postponing those sales.
Yeah, and that's sort of the question. And the reason I bring you on, I have this whole thing, okay? I'm a listing guy. I don't think you can ever spend enough time in a single day. I mean, even for what you do, life is about marketing. I mean, yes,
right.
Word of mouth referrals is where you get the core of your business based on your credibility, blah, 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 blah. And I'll even say this because it's being recorded. Craig Proctor is 100% correct. It is all about networking and referral-based business, and I'll probably burn in hell for saying Craig Proctor's right. Fortunately, I can do that on my own calls. But he's right. But here's the truth about real estate.
I'm a Craig Proctor coaching student. I don't know if you knew that or not.
No, I didn't know. He's right. He is right. He is right. I don't agree to the scripts. I don't agree to the mass repetition that Craig or the fairies. Everybody knows this about me. I'm more in the school of authentic and genuine, and be you, and go in there and not explain how awesome you are in a repeated sort of a repeated model. And that's the way everybody, and I don't blame Craig. I now know, and I'm saying this to my coaching students, I now know that the best way to coach real estate agents is to teach repetition. It works really, 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 really super well with doing repetition for them. And that way you don't really screw it up. And that's something that I'm kind of trying to develop, and I'll certainly have it from my group. But, what do I take to the door? What do I say at the door?
Yeah.
And the only reason I bring all that up, I think everybody forgets their primary business. Your primary business is marketing yourself, your service or your widget or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And the drawback is the short sale itself.
Yeah. Well, I grew up in the Tom Hopkins school, where, it's finding people to sell and selling the people you find. And if you're in the short sale business, it's not just finding people to sell and selling the people you find. It's about closing the deal too, because the transaction isn't closed until the third party, the bank, signs off on your transaction. So you can do all the purchase agreements that you want, but you still got to get the bank to sign off on the deal. So it just adds a third complicated step. And my belief is obviously the same as yours in this, and that there's no money in negotiating short sales. The money comes in the listing. The big money, the people who are, I work I have a handful of agents that are making $1 million a year, doing a lot of short sales, and they get a listing, they send it to us, and they get on to the next deal. And that's just how they do it. Now, if an agent only has aspirations of doing 1 or 2 deals at a time, and they don't want a pipeline bigger than 1 or 2 deals in escrow at a time, then they probably have all the time they need in order to negotiate their own short sales. But for agents who are hungrier than that and are really trying to make some waves in terms of their income for this year and next year, then it doesn't make any sense to be an expert short sale negotiator. It only makes sense to be an expert lister and negotiator with buyer agents.
I completely agree. I think I was doing a conference call yesterday, I think for Vladis's group, for Realty Procs, and I said on that call, and I mean this sincerely, I, for the life of me, cannot get around the mentality of why everybody's hung up about the short sale itself. Maybe it's a control issue.
It is a control issue. That's all it is.
And look, if you remove the short, in this day and age, and I'm saying this to everybody on the call, make this really clear, when it comes to listing the house, and I said it on the call yesterday, and I'll probably get hate mail, you could be a blind, deaf, dumb, legless, armless stump of a human being and still be able to sell a house in this market. It takes no skill whatsoever in the current market to sell a house.
No.
None. So
that's right. You don't even have to price it right because the market will adjust it for you.
It'll adjust for you. You can, like, I'm at my ex-wife's house. I can walk down to the front of this place, stick a sign up, and I'm going to get 5 people to stop and ask questions.
Right.
Before I sit back down to take this call. And if that's the case, then I would get a listing, and by logic, I would spend one open house and be able to get both ends of the deal, which is legal in all the states.
Yeah.
And which is a pain in the butt for a short sale, especially when you're double ending.
Right.
I can now turn it over to you where a percentage, a vast number of the short sales you do, right, get paid by the bank anyway. So you're not even taking a piece out of the pie.
Right.
So I got a potential for 6% straight up, and I still got the 1% on the back end in case it does go sideways, right?
Yeah, what I tell agents, so everyone's probably wondering, well, what do you get if you don't get paid? And the simple answer is just 25% of the listing agent commission. So one of the things that we coach agents to do, I think you do too, is when you do a short sale listing, do it at 3.5, 2.5, 3.5 to the listing side.
Right.
So even if you end up paying 25% of your listing agent fee to me or somebody else, we're not necessarily advocating for me. We're just saying, hey, you should have a short sale processor, a third party doing it so you can focus on listing. That's really the thing that we're saying. I mean, we'd love to have the opportunity to do it, but that's not what we're trying to convince people to do. So even at 3.5%, if you're at 3.5% and you end up paying the 25% of the listing commission, that's 7/8. That means the listing side is getting 2 5/8, and the selling side is getting 2.5. So it's still some agents who are used to getting 5% on anyway are still making more on a short sale than they are on a traditional sale.
Right. And again, I'm focusing, and I say this to everybody on the call, spend your time getting listings, even if it's one listing per month. What an automated life. So I spend 1 hour a week using this ridiculous method that all these guys on this call are using, right? It takes me an hour to go put up 20 monsters. Out of that, I'm going to go see between 4 and 6 homeowners. Of the 4 and 6, I can work on getting one listing for the month, which in most markets, even if you're pulling one listing a month, you're doing better than 80% of the agents. They only do a half listing per month.
Yeah.
I can't even comprehend 6 listings per year. It boggles my mind that that's the average for 80% of the agents. So I'm just focusing on one deal per month. And Michael Hellickson taught me this. He goes, tell me about your marketing, and I tell him all about it. He goes, that's mind-blowing. I said, yeah, well, the original name of the group was 20 listings in 30 days. He goes, agents will never do it. But what a great idea. I said, what are you talking about? He goes, you can't get them to wrap their brains around the concept of getting that many listings or doing that much work. You have to lower the bar. I said, well, like what, one a week? That's the way, even on the low end, if I created the drip campaign with the way the system's operated. He goes, one a week, that's too many. You got to say one a month. I said,
yeah.
Gotta
Well,
be
you know what?
kidding me.
Well, see, I love doing listing appointments, right? And one of the things that we do with our clients, and this would include your clients that are interested in working with us as well, making us part of their team as well, is that when they have, we get involved pre-listing with the deal. So even when, like I'm getting ready to, I got a guy who's looking for a job. I'm not ready to hire him, right? I don't have the capacity to hire him yet, right? I don't have enough business for him. But I said, listen, I got some stuff that you can do. And what I'm doing is I'm hiring him to go out and deliver the monster packages. All right, I'm gonna pay him, like $20-$30 or whatever to go out and do that for for I don't even know what the math is, but he's for a couple hours work, probably $20 with the equivalent of $20 an hour to go out and do it because it's worth it to me to do that. And then I do the high payoff task of
the conversion,
taking the phone calls and doing the appointments.
Right. And nobody ever gets that.
Yeah, and so I mean the idea of me going out and as busy as I am, going out and dropping off 20 packages, even if it just takes an hour, I don't even want to do that. I'd rather have somebody else go do that for me, and then I just take the calls and we go from there. So
basically for $40, you hire somebody, they go put a tag up on the house, the tag goes into that's the call center routine, and you have somebody actually go back out and give them the package and do the soft door. Hey, you got a sale date pending or a notice of default, just dropping off a package, just a homeowner.
Yeah, the only thing I do is I make them wear a white shirt and khaki pants.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. Everybody asks me, what do I wear? A polo shirt,
right.
A pair of, if you're going to wear shorts, slightly to the knee line. Don't wear anything that's inappropriate short-wide.
Yeah.
But as disarming as humanly possible.
Right.
I mean, you want to look like some kind of weird little, I always say, get a little wristband or something, or,
Yeah.
You want to look a little hippie-ish for the project.
Yeah, you want to look like a neighborhood guy.
Yes. I've recently been trying to explain the system, and I said, it's an opportunity to be face-to-face. I don't know any other way to really get the face-to-face. So I get the listing. Okay, let's just go through this. So I get the listing from the guy. I want both ends of the deal. I go out, I slap my sign up, I do my weekend, I get both ends of the deal. I write up the contract. What do I do next? Do I call you once I have the listing, or do I call you before I have the listing?
Well, it depends. If they're struggling with the code, so one of the ways that I can get involved with them at the listing is at the kitchen table. So if they have a seller who's got a whole bunch of questions, should I continue to make my payments? What are the tax consequences? All those questions that they're asking. Maybe I should do a deed in lieu? What's my liability if they foreclose? What about and you're just making your head explode? Well, I'm happy to get involved and talk to the seller right at that point. I get on, obviously I can't go out in person, but there's a chance that you might be able to get me on the phone right then and there, or we'll schedule a time with that seller to go through it, at which point I'll help you close the listing and and I'll tell the seller they need to go, the first step is to sign the listing agreement, and they'll go ahead and do that. So it just depends on the client as to whether or not they have questions. So I'll help them overcome all the objections to the listing right up front so they can go ahead and secure the listing. And then if they want to get into negotiation, which is one of the 12 things that I teach. I teach a seminar called 12, and you're going to let me do it in Orlando, I think. So it's called 12 Things Every Agent Should Know About Short Sales. And one of the things that we teach in that is to get it into negotiations immediately. So if they want to go out and double-end it, and by the way, the asterisk on double-ending the deal is you got to do it in your broker's name, or you got to do it in another agent's name, so you don't get it. The commission compressed to 4 points. But the idea is that if we want to get it to negotiate, so if you're going to take a week or 2 or 3 to market the property, that's a no-no. What we want to do is I have investors who will make an offer on that property, and you guys and a lot of people have investors, so this isn't novel, okay? But what we'll do is we can make offers on these properties and get into negotiations in 1 or 2 or 3 days, So so we can at least get a feel for what the bank wants, and especially if there's a complicated deal structure. So when we do market it to a retail buyer, we're marking it as a previously or pre-approved short sale, which makes it enormously easier to understand what it is the bank wants. Because on the first pass, we're just kind of guessing. We're guessing at the value. We're guessing at the deal structure. We're guessing at what the second's going to want. We're guessing at what the HOA delinquency is going to want. We're guessing at a lot of things. So we want to use that first 2 or 3 weeks to really find out what we've gotten ourselves into, and then make the adjustments we need so we can get it closed. So it's not just it's one thing to be able to list it. It's another thing to be able to sell it. Then it's another thing altogether to be able to fund it.
Wow. That sounds complicated.
It is complicated. And people say, well, how does Bank of America do it? And the answer is 1,000 different ways, depending on 1,000 different variables, because you've got hundreds of investors, and you got hundreds of junior lien holders. You got hundreds of scenarios, and then is it Fannie Mae, or is it not Fannie Mae? Is it portfolios? Is it non-portfolios? Is it FHA? It goes on and on and on. And for as many short sales as I've done, and over 200 last year alone, they're all different. Every single one of them is different, and we just don't know. And people call me. I get calls from people in advance of taking a short sale listing, and they say, well, it has this and this and this and this. Is that a deal that you will take? And I just kind of chuckle, and the answer is always yes, because I guess there's short sale guys out there that kind of cherry pick the deals that they want to work on based on ease, degree of difficulty. And see, I look at it differently. My job is to get them done. I don't want you. I want listen. I like getting easy. My job's just to figure it out. And sometimes going in, we don't have enough information to figure out how we're going to do it. So we just have to get started and then make the adjustments as more information is revealed in order to get it done. So we kind of have an idea, a loose structure in our mind based on our experience. But once we get into it and once more specific details come out, we have to adjust and amend the agreements, and sometimes find a new buyer, and sometimes, and oftentimes a lot of it's just negotiating the terms, more effectively. Negotiators who just accept what the banks say and say, hey, you got to do that. They make me crazy too, and they give guys like me a bad name who can really get things done. And when we went back to why do people negotiate their short sales on their own? Well, to me, I've come to the conclusion that it's aside from control, there's another big factor to that, and that is the other people aren't getting them done. So it's like all things. Well, if I want it done right, I guess I got to do it myself, and that's not necessarily the case, especially if you got somebody who is going to pull you through the deal and explain what they're doing every step of the way, and even say, acknowledge the receipt of a document you sent. I hear that's a big problem out there as well. It's a real lack of communication.
I always like that one. We never got your file. Really? That's like your one stuff. So is there a cutoff? The question came up. So if it's got 5 judgments and liens in title, you're still going to take a stab at it?
Oh, yeah. Our record's 9 liens.
Your record is 9 liens.
Yeah, our record's 9 liens. I'm closing one in Ukaipa next week that's got 5 liens, and and so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many liens there are. Our job's to get it done. So no, we don't have a cutoff.
Smile. I just got up on the chat where Steve just responded to him.
Right.
Yeah, 5 isn't that bad, Steve. Send him the deal.
Yeah, it almost sounds easy, doesn't it? Yeah.
And I say the same thing about marketing. I was up teaching somebody, and we're joking. They got 30 or 40 listings. Jen had like 30 or 40 listings up on the board, and I said, yeah, well, you want to increase it by 3 to 5 a month. And when you say it out loud in context, it sounds ridiculous.
Right.
I mean, and liens are the same way. I always say in context, no, it's not 9 liens at least, and we got that one closed.
Right.
Everything is a context issue when you look at it. But I think everybody wraps their mind in these ways. Well, short sales should be. I still, to this day, I think the oldest and dumbest. They shouldn't call them short sales. They should call them long sales. Then you're doing them wrong. Then you're doing them wrong. That's the bottom line.
That's right. Once you understand what you have to do, it becomes really simple, and that's why we want to get it into negotiations right away. We don't want to lose 30 days during the marketing period or document collection period or whatever. We want to get it in as quickly as we can, especially if it's got 5 liens or what have you. So, let's kind of talk about it. People go, well, how do you get that done? Because the senior lien holder is only going to pay $8,500 total for all junior liens. Well, that's where negotiation really becomes effective. We get those deals done with the $8,500 from the junior lien, and this is, you had me talk about deal structure in Anaheim. This is where deal structure becomes a really, really critical step in understanding how to structure your deal. Is that and having the right buyer in the transaction, and these are things that we coach people on when we get into the transaction, and we have some of the details of, instead of selling it at $300,000, we fight with BPO support to get a deal done at $270,000, and an addendum says buyer agrees to pay up to $30,000 to settle junior liens and other non-approved seller closing costs on behalf of the seller. And then we effectively negotiate all the junior liens and either get them released or settled, depending on the circumstances. So the rules are different for lien holders than they are for mortgages in terms of lien release.
Right.
But it's in California in particular where it's complicated by the seller not being able to contribute to the settlement of those, even though they're non-mortgage related.
Yeah, in every state it's unique. I mean, I don't think people get this. The rules for each, how much do the rules of each state actually come into play with short sale negotiation?
They come into play relative to deal structure.
Okay.
But if it's a Fannie Mae loan, then it's pretty standard, all across the country. So what percentage of your group is outside of California? I'm just curious here.
A good percentage. Better than 50%, I would say at this point. I'm
okay. So let's just, the big difference is, is judicial versus non-judicial in terms of the foreclosure process, and then there's a lot of variables in terms of whether or not the seller is able to contribute or not contribute to the settlement of these debts. And then the other big issue is deficiencies. Does the state allow the deficiency? So those are, when we get into different states, those are the 3 things we have to take a look at. Unfortunately, we're experienced at all 3 of them, and the way that we work a deal in California is different than the way we do in Colorado or Florida or some of the other places that we're doing a lot of deals in.
Right. All right. So I get a listing, I get a contract. Do I need the infamous age-old $1 million question? Do I need to list it on the MLS? BFA requires it. Fannie Freddie requires it. Do I have to?
Well, yeah. I mean, you put it in the MLS, but it doesn't have to be active for any period of time. And we, if you're working with a company like us, or if you're doing it right, you've got the thing sold before it hits the MLS, and you're putting it in pending. You don't want to market a short sale property the way that you market a traditional or an equity property.
So there's a trick to MLS placement.
Yeah.
So so let's take the order. So I get the listing, I do my weekend, I secure my buyer, I got both ends of the deal, I've already talked to you. Now I'm going to quote unquote season it in the MLS so that I have that for the short sale package. What's the structure look like?
You just fill it out. It's just normal, except you put it in. This is in the beginning. This is before we know. And if you have your buyer before it hits the MLS, that's fine. You just open up when you put it in the MLS. You change it to pending, contingent. And what I do is in the public remarks, I put as soon as it goes pending, I put in the first words of the public remarks, backup offers encouraged.
Encouraged.
Yes, backup offers encouraged.
How about are spiffy? Backup offers are spiffy.
They are spiffy. You always want to have a backup offer. I love having having my coffee with you in the morning. All right.
Oh my gosh!
I can't wait for Orlando. Okay,
Spiffy.
So what we want to do is we want to do backup offers and courage. And so one of the reasons I like opening these short sale negotiations with an investor buyer, if you will, not a straw buyer. I know people get this confused sometimes, Lee, because the difference between a straw buyer and an investor buyer is that an investor buyer actually intends to close if they can get the price approved that they want. A straw buyer never has any intention of closing. We don't
Correct.
have any straw buyers, okay? So, but investor buyers...
By definition, from an asset management perspective, I will say this, all investors are straw buyers.
Right.
They have no intention of buying unless it's exactly the number they want.
Yeah, well, that's not, we'll open up into, my investor buyers, who make an offer sight unseen on a property will probably offer 70% of market value, all right? Now, there's no chance that deal is going to get approved, but they'll also, through the negotiations, they'll counter, to 90, 95% of market value. They just want to see what the deal. All we're trying to do in that scenario is get the bank to make an initial counteroffer to us, so we can get a feel for what it is they're looking for, and then the investor, through negotiations, we really identify what the bank wants. And so when and if the investor falls out, and we, let's say the investor made an offer at $210,000 on a $300,000 property, and we get it approved at $285,000 as a result of the negotiations, the 2 or 3 back and forths that we had. Now, when I put it into the MLS, I open the public remarks. I go active and open the public remarks with short sale previously approved at $285,000, bring offer for quick approval. And bam, we have a $300,000 property. We're now marketing it for $285,000. We take the highest and best. 2-3 weeks later, we have an approval, and within 30 days, we're closing.
Outstanding. So a question just came in. Okay, I want to give David a file. I haven't discussed it with the client yet. What I reasonably expect that they think I'm negotiating the file. What is my dialogue with the client?
Well, you just tell them I'm part of your team, just like, if you were to hire somebody inside your office in another cubicle to handle your short sale negotiations, we're just part of your team. And if they spent 5 minutes with me on the phone, I'm certain that they would be a lot more excited that we were handling it than anybody else, including the listing agent.
So you're happy to talk to the client and put them
If they have any reservations about whether or not they should do business with us or not, a 5-minute conversation with me will add value to the entire transaction from the seller's perspective.
You'll love this. The current debate on the chat board is that you don't charge enough when there are that many lanes.
Oh, well, maybe. Maybe, but you have to remember, I'm getting the bank to pay. See, here's what they don't know, is that when I get the bank to pay my fee, they're not going to believe this. But they'll find out eventually, I guess, is that I'm charging 2% to the bank, and we're getting that paid most of the time. So, we're making an obnoxious amount of money.
Right. No, and look, here's the thing, and I've said this to everybody. You don't feel bad for negotiators, okay? They make good money, and even on the other end of the spectrum, okay, so you get your 6 deals per year, and I've said this to real estate agents live. If you really knew how to do a short sale, you would make an obscene amount of money on the mitigation because banks will pay it. They want to do the deal. If anybody on this call, okay, on replay or otherwise, and this is actually such a good call, I'll probably send it to the whole list. I don't think we gave away any monster secrets. But here's the whole thing. Even if I was just doing a couple short sales a year and I was doing the mitigation myself, and I was really confident at doing it, you would have the separate LLC or DBA, and you'd have the separate shell company so that I could do my own negotiation, just like an escrow company in California. That money's out there. They want to do the short sale. And I love people who tell me, oh, they'll never pay those fees, they'll never do this. I'm on the phone with the guy who's getting 2 points for mitigation paid by the bank and not affecting the agent's bottom line.
Right. They just still getting 6 points, and all those seller fees are getting done, and the net is the same. It doesn't affect any of that. It either gets it's either getting paid or it's not. So, I can never afford to do this. I have a big team and overhead, and if we were only getting 25% of the listing agent commission, we're a real company. I'm not a guy and working out of a spare bedroom in my house. And so, or taking up an agent's cubicle. I mean, this is all we do, and we do a lot of deals, and we do it really well. But the reality of the situation is that, it's not unusual for me to get a $12 or $15 or $18,000 fee, depending on the size of the deal that came from the bank, and the agents still get their 6%. That's, the testimonials I get from my agents are really just, incredible. I had one guy write on my Facebook page at one time, is if you're not using David to do your short sale negotiations, you're stupid. I thought that was the greatest testimonial ever. So I don't necessarily believe that, but I'm just sharing what he said. But the bottom line is that we get paid plenty, and the transaction is per file. It's not, my deal with the guys that we do negotiations for is that you get the deal and I'll get you paid on it, and while I'm getting you paid on it, you just go get me another deal. That's how it works. Sometimes we're short on a deal. Sometimes it's obscene what we make on a deal, but it works out in the end. I'm not doing so few transactions where, I have to make a pile of money on every single deal. And I've got, I got a deal that took me 22 months to get closed, and I made $2,300 on. I think I lost money on the deal. And then
here's the big. Well, you'll love this one. I love watching your questions come in. Listening to people tell their horror stories from working with their mitigators. I'm like, I don't know why you're not hiring David. You guys are all full of. Here's the thing. What do you do for the control freaks? Okay, what's the communication like? That's actually a really good question from Stephen on the call.
Well, aren't they all control freaks?
No, not really. Okay, there are some agents that are loosey-goosey that just fly by the seat of their pants. I'm going to put the short sale off to you, and I'm going to run. And, of course, those are the top 10% that realize it's just about getting the deal and making as many deals as possible.
Those are my agents. It seems like all mine are control freaks. So we do a number of things. First of all, we'll give you access to the file in Realty Commander. Okay, so you can take a look at what's going on, and then we'll give you a weekly email update. If you don't want to go into Realty Commander, we'll give you a weekly email update, at least weekly. If there's any status change on the file, we email you right away. As soon as we have it, before we close out of the file, we email you right away. And if you have more than 3 files with us at a time, I personally will do a weekly conference call with you to review the status of every one of your files and address questions, and do a scheduled call where we say it's Tuesday at 3 o'clock. That's your time. Every Tuesday at 3 o'clock for you and I to talk about your deals and any other deals, and have in-depth conversations about each of your individual files. So our communication is very good with our clients, because we know that that's important to them, because they're trying to keep everybody else posted through the transaction. Now, that doesn't mean you can't call and get an update more frequently than that, and that doesn't mean there won't be more frequent updates, but that's what I just shared, is at a minimum of the communication you're going to get with us.
Wow, Diana just gave you a testimonial in the coaching. There's a surprise, Diana. She goes, and I think you and I can both confirm this. Diana said, I'm the ultimate control freak. I don't want to say for fear of what I will have to deal with later on, but yeah, she is, down to minute details. And Diana gives up all her files to David as well.
Right. It took her a while, though.
It took her a while. I beat her over, even from the first time I met her, I've always said, I say this to everyone, turn over your files.
Right.
It's not the same anymore. I mean, maybe back in 2007, 8, and 9, when it was the Wild West, you had to work your own files. There was nobody that was truly competent all the time.
Yeah.
And I was teaching people, you just don't get how a bank operates. I mean, for a while it was a cookie cutter format, and as long as you painted within the lines, your deal was going to get approved. And then for a while it was every deal's unique, and it's like a rose. And then it was a cookie cutter again, and now we're back to every deal is unique and like a cookie cutter. And I'm constantly fascinated by the constant ebb and flow that agents think that I'm joking about this. But right now, Deal, almost any deal is going to get looked at right now with a bank, correct?
Any deal is going to get looked at. Yeah, Lee,
They don't want the in other words, they don't want the foreclosure.
No, I've never had a deal not approved because of lack of hardship, by the way. Okay, never,
so
not
you think
once.
I nailed it in Anaheim? That's always like my running joke about hardships. It's because the client wants to do a short sale. That's
right.
The hardship.
Yeah, and they say you need to do this, you need to do that. I not that long ago, I got a deal approved where the seller had more money in the bank than the balance of the loan that we were negotiating, and we got it approved.
Wow.
So I mean, see, this is why I don't say no to files. Our job's just to get it done, and you get pretty. Some of these can get pretty routine where they get, they're relatively easy, and my team hates when I say this, or I'll say it anyway. Is that I love hard deals because it keeps it interesting. I love when it tests my ability and my knowledge, and it forces me to, to look at a deal harder. If it takes me more than 3 seconds to figure it out, I like that.
So here's a question. Well, now they're firing questions. Now you've inspired them all towards the last 10 minutes of today. Does going have to interfere with your 2% when you go after the deal, or are you still able to occasionally get your piece of the pie without affecting the net when doing
Yeah, no, we still get it on a lot of half-a deals. And, there's, and the secret is in our addendum. We write an addendum, and, when we start doing our first deals together, everybody will get it and ask to add it to their purchase agreement and the deal structure. They'll all, I just don't reveal it in advance. Everybody sees it because every dollar is disclosed to all the parties, and it goes on the HUD. And everybody, the buyer agrees to it, the seller agrees to it, the seller's lenders agree to it, the buyer's lenders agree to it, and then escrow and title sign off on it, and then the HUD gets approved by the bank prior to closing. So everything is disclosed, which is the next question I get. So I'm going ahead and answering that now. Everything is disclosed, and it doesn't make a difference whether or not it's half or Fannie or, there's a lot of variables that are go.
It's funny because every time we talk about these, everybody's doing their mitigator horror stories of, I actually had one decline because of lack of hardship, because the bank really wanted the house back. And I will answer that one. Unless it's a mom and pop and somebody had it earmarked, you probably had a bad mitigator. Yeah,
no, they don't generally want it. You got to remember, most negotiators for the banks, mitigators, if you will, they're just working files. It's nothing personal. They're not going home and looking at that house on Zillow and thinking, oh, this would be a good one for the bank to have. They don't really care. They just want to check off their checklist. They're not as skilled as you were, Lee. They're not, they're hired in mass, they're hired as temporaries, and, they make the cut, then then they become level 2.
Yeah.
After 6 months, and then they make it another year, they're level 3, and and that's and so it goes. So, but it rarely has anything to do with the bank making a decision that they want the house or not. They, sometimes their data is bad, and so they have an expectation that the market can't achieve, and that's what a good negotiator does. Is a good negotiator does BPO disputes and disputes value and works hard to bring the bank to normal. I mean, it's not unusual for. Huh?
You mean there's no conspiracy, David? That they're trying to get houses back?
No.
People think I'm joking. Like I can't qualify. You probably have more qualifications at this moment to talk about bank stuff than me, because clearly I've been out of the business for 7 years, and banking never changes. Banks don't want assets back.
No.
They don't. We don't. Asset managers, look, you write it off, get the money, move on, get the bad loans out. I mean, start lending money again.
Here's the deal. I mean, if you think about it, this is loss mitigation, right? So the banks, by definition, loss mitigation is how do we lose the least amount of money? And so what they're doing is they're looking at net present value schedules, right? They're doing these NPVs, which is, who knows how they really calculate them, but they're looking at these deals that can we make more money with a short sale versus foreclosure. So what they're doing is they're predicting what their net is going to be on a foreclosure, and as long as they can, Now, as long as that data is accurate, then as long as the short sale improves on that or gives them what they would get in a foreclosure, then they're going to go ahead and do the short sale. Now, if they got a BPO that was wrong, and their net present value calculation is as a result wrong, then their short sale negotiations are going to be off. So our job is not to get the valuations right. It's not done with the negotiator. It goes through the negotiator, but it's done through the valuation team, because the negotiator is not making the assessment of value themselves. They're just communicating the assessment from the valuation team. So we created a proprietary BPO, a value dispute form, BPO dispute we call it, that we can send it. It's one page, it's comprehensive, and it's able to get to the valuation team, and we're very, very successful in getting market value adjustment so that we can get that transaction closed. So if you don't know how to find a bad value, then you're going to lose deals.
Oh, okay. I completely get that. They're all talking. Diana's actually handling all your questions for you.
Thanks, Diana.
They love this call. I think it's funny that everybody, like, I'm the short sale trainer guy, and I don't want to talk about people don't even get that. I just want to talk trash because you're the only guy that I can relate this to. How frustrating is it to go to networking events or real estate agent events, and then you're really good at this. So here's how David and I really met. I went and watched him speak, and I sat quietly in the back of the room. Completely handles the room, and while I'm looking at my computer, I hear, rightly? I'm like, whoa, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was really sort of like that. But so we've always sort of had this connection. I've always wondered, how do you just still constantly handle the mindless, dumb agent questions? And that's not to say that you guys aren't dumb. I would like to believe that my coaching students are awesome. I may resend this as a massive marketing piece.
Well,
but so if you're on this call and you're going, my questions aren't dumb. Yeah, I hate to break it to you. It's always going to come down to value, the offer, and the HUD. I mean, that's just really ultimately the simplicity of what I taught in 2007 of the bank really does know the numbers most of the time. It does come down to the value of the offer and the HUD. And if you don't think that the bank really has at least a good ballpark idea of what the value of that property is, and they're just shaking your tree to shake your tree, then you should turn over the mitigation. You shouldn't, like, if you have a dumb question of, oh, this is how the bank is. I had a client up in Pasadena who swore to me, they'll never pay third-party fees. Bank of America never pays third-party fees. Freddie Penny never pays third-party fees. Blah, 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 blah. You should get a mitigator. You really should. My experience across the country, the David Bartels are few and far between. I mean, when you find them, you latch onto them and you give them the deal. And not only that, you're getting paid mostly by the bank. I just want to know. I know you're going to be politically correct because you're out to get business. I've already got the business. How do you do it with a smile on your face? Where you go, really? You just asked that question? Really? With a straight face?
Well, I just really try to keep it real and keep it simple. And I said, that's not, if they, just depends on the question. I said, well, the answer's in the HUD, or the answer's in the addendum, or the answer's in the, I gave up making it my personal crusade to make sure everybody gets it. I had to let it go. So
you don't get, well, I've always wondered, because I burned out, after 500 seminars, somebody walks up to you and they go, well, my broker told me.
Yeah. Well,
your broker clearly works at a bank.
All right. So one of my favorite quotes is, just because you or your broker has never seen it before doesn't make it illegal.
Correct. That's actually, that might be on my tombstone. That's actually brilliant. But it's so true. The wives' tales of this industry are worse than the actuality of doing a short sale. I think there's more fear that revolves around working short sales than there are with actually doing short sales. I mean, does the DRE want us, and I mean this on a national level based on your experience, have you ever gotten DRE heat for any of your activity?
No,
clearly you're making a percentage and you're doing all kinds of stuff all over the country.
No, I've never gotten any from, when I was in the loan mod business, I got some inquiries.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, I don't want to deny in public that I've never had an inquiry from a regulator, but that was on the loan bond side. On the short sale side, I've never ever even received a letter, or a phone call.
And that's why I bring it up. I mean, I think because if I were on this call and I'm doing it based on I'll give you the wives' tale. Well, if I use you, then I have to give you a piece of my commission. You can't make third-party money. We're all going to go to jail in the FBI, and it's wire fraud. We're not just.
Okay, let me go back to a basic tenet of what we do. Every fee is disclosed in the contract. Every dollar goes on the HUD. It's approved by the buyer, the seller's banks, the buyer's banks, and then the HUD is approved by the selling lender prior to closing.
So I'm just wondering, so I'll squeeze this in before we hang up the call. What about investors? You still touch do you take, so I'm an investor, I'm buying it. I am the first party, second party, I'm the money source, I'm everything.
Yeah. I have a lot of investor clients,
And I'm actually doing this for my guy in Rhode Island who goes out and gets deals. So he's going to be the money on it, he's going to get the play on it, this is what he's writing it up at, this is what he's got it agreed to.
Yeah.
I need you to shoot for me at this value.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what we do, and I'll even say this is what we're going to list it at. Here's why. This is what your offer is going to be. Here's how. This is the language I want in the offer. When I started short sales, we thought that we were going to make money flipping houses. We didn't realize we were going to turn into a real estate consulting firm that specialized in short sale negotiation. So we started as the investor, and then we got legal advice along the way that says, hey, you need to wear one hat. And so I went and got my I didn't even have a real estate license, so I went and got my real estate license. So that we could, and now my broker's license, so we could keep everything legal. But yes, we're a lot of my deals. I speak at the California Foreclosure Institute once a month, and so I have a lot of investors out there bird dogging deals. They're finding these deals before the market. As soon as they get one, they have our seller's package filled out right on the initial meeting. They send it to us, and then we handle all the other details for them. And basically, they put themselves in right of first refusal. And if we handle the deal, they get paid on that deal whether or not they buy it or not. So they'll either get paid as a result of acquiring the property and holding it or flipping it, whatever they want to do. They'll get an assignment fee for the property if we end up having to assign it off to somebody else. And yes, you can do short sale assignments. I do them all the time for investor clients. Or they'll get a finder's fee / referral fee from us for sending the deal to us.
So I'll stick with the investor topic before I let you go. There is a semi-famous individual who teaches investor tactics, and they are bringing back the land trust flip routine. Again, another round.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of that stuff.
Neither am I. I mean, I have the actual trust docs in my collection. We in Las Vegas actually met the guy who created him. He's a friend of mine by the name of Bob Middleman. He's actually the guy who wrote the original trust.
Yeah, I know Bob too. Yeah.
Bob just had his stuff borrowed heavily from by other individuals who I will not name because I'm probably going to use this as mass marketing.
Yeah.
Can you disclose with the arm's length and everything else from an investor standpoint? And I say this because I have an addendum. If you're going to do it, just be straight up about it from the very beginning. I plan to do X, Y, and Z.
You have to be straight up about it. You have to disclose. That's the tenet, in all of this stuff. And, I don't even do wholesale. I don't even do transactions with wholesale flips anymore. It's not that we can't. I mean, we did some of those, and it's just too complicated. And I'm not a fan of any deal where the homeowner gets harmed if the buyer can't close the transaction. I don't like options. I don't like leasebacks. I don't like it. All the different variables. I don't like signing the deed in advance. I don't like any of those deals. It's not that they're bad. I just don't like them if it creates leverage over the homeowner, because it's not leverage over the homeowner you need. That just gets you control of the deal. But if the bank doesn't approve it, the seller ends up getting harmed and forced into foreclosure. I don't like any of those kinds of transactions where the seller loses control of the property.
And I never have. That's the one thing I never understood with investors, and probably why I included investors with the CDAP model. It's okay to be an investor.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it. It's not an evil thing. As long as your benefit is always to the homeowner, the investor actually has more stroke than anybody else in the transaction.
Yeah. The bank is not going to. Yeah, the bank is. The best thing that an investor could do is hook up with a good negotiation guy like me, who's gonna honor their agreement and give them first right of refusal in the negotiations instead of going to market every time you get a counteroffer.
Right.
When an investor brings us a deal and they offer 210 and the bank counters at 300, we don't say okay next, and we go out and put a sign in the yard and do it for 300. We counter at 225, and then the bank comes back at 300. Then we go to 240. But we're not going to the open market every single time we get a counteroffer. We continue negotiating with that investor until that investor says, waves their white flag, and then they move on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Your number one more time, David. We could do this all day. I'm going to be nice to everybody because David actually has a real job, unlike me watching my daughter at the pool or debating whether or not I'm going to go see Van Halen and Paso Robles tonight. Yeah, I'm terrible. Like that Counting Crows thing last week was just, even I feel dirty. Like, did I really just go to a bunch of shows and?
Well, if you're
I should be more like, I should really have that Tom Ferry mindset. I'm at the beach. I'm showing credibility by not working.
Well,
sorry,
if you're going all the way to Paso Robles, stop for dinner in Thousand Oaks.
I very well might. I've been trying to, wow, now it's just like an open conversation with friends. With, 50 people listening.
Okay, so my number is 818-584-6830. 818-584-6830. Email, too. David at Home Loan Advocates. Advocates is plural. David at homeloanadvocates.com. And so if and obviously you can always, Google Home Loan Advocates, you'll find us there too. And, we're easy to reach, we're easy to work with, and if you want to turn dead deals into funded transactions, just add us to your team. That's all we just, and do what Lee said. Send me one ugly deal that you just don't see how it's going to get done, and just let me do what I do and turn it around for you.
Absolutely. And for every time you guys send a file, I get a free dinner. So I'm on a roll at this point.
You have free dinner for life with me.
I'm pretty packed up at this point.
Yeah.
Actually, I actually think that this was a very good call. I'm going to send this out as a marketing piece to my entire list. And the reason I'm, for the people on the call, why would you do that? Look, I don't want anybody doing short sales. What's the point? Go to marketing. The point of this call was for you to listen to two real guys talk about real short sales the way they're really done. A banker and a guy who does them every day in the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds level, okay, where he's telling you whatever you think it is that you think I'll say it because he would never say it. You're wrong. The banks will never do this. They'll never take this. Fine, give it to David. Fine. Yeah. That's the point. I knew when I did this call that David and I would talk at a level where everybody's going, that's a great call. This is going to be like this Zapruder film, and we're going to listen to it 26 times, and we're going to learn all the secrets to mitigation. Why? Why would you want to? I want to unknow what I know about banking. Okay? I can't stop being an actuary for the rest of my adult life. I do marketing like an actuary. I teach like an actuary. If I just do it enough times, they will learn it.
And Lee, let me just say this to everybody that's listening or who may listen. And if you've got a question, just call me. It's just if you have a question about a file that you're working on and you got it mostly done and you just have a little rote, call me and I might be able to unlock that for you so you can finish the deal.
So the $1 million question to end it on, since I'm a marketing guy these days, I used to be a bank guy. So sad. Yeah. I used to be the guy who taught everybody short sales the first time, and now sadly I'm just the guy who can do marketing. And I guess it's not sad. There's nobody else with creative marketing. What's the big holdup is always the loan month. You're a home loan advocate. Right. So I go to the door, and we'll end it on this, and we'll give you a marketing nugget on top of it. I go to the door. Objection number 3 on the list of all 3 objections of Why are you at my house? I'm going to live here forever. And the infamous, I'm going to do a loan mod. I'm talking to somebody about a loan mod. What's your best? I've got a magical loan mod. Well, my running joke is I've got the magical loan mod seeds that I'm going to go plant in my backyard. It's going to sprout a reduction, an equity reduction. It's going to give me a payment that is even below my interest-only payment. Wow, that is an amazing beanstalk you have growing there in the backyard in your fantasy land.
Right.
What is the best takeaway on conversion for the I'm going to get the magical loan mod that I heard about?
Well, what I would tell them is I said, well, I'd love to help you get it. One of the services we provide, I disagree with them. One of the services that we provide is we assist homeowners like you securing the loan mod if they're eligible to get it, and it's a service that we do for completely for free. Can I see the documents that you have that outline the program that you're describing?
Yeah. Let me see the directions on the seed packet that you just planted in the
Exactly.
backyard.
I don't tell them no. I just say okay, that leads to a deeper conversation.
Yeah, and I keep explaining this to everybody. You really can't screw it up when you talk to a homeowner. The best you can do is inspire them to go make a phone call and confirm it with the bank. But
yeah,
have you heard of a loan? And I keep saying this. Have you heard of a loan mod that will give you a payment that is below an interest-only payment that isn't a trial loan modification that's bleeding you out?
There has to be a significant principal reduction. And I guess we're out of time, but I just want to say this. Listen. The Department of Justice settlement is basically all done. Everyone's paid it out. Everyone's met all the criteria. And those principal reductions, which are, by the way, mostly designed to eliminate seconds, not reduce the principals at first. That's where they did most of the write-downs, was by eliminating seconds that they were going to write off anyway. Okay, so most of those, the big incentive checks to short sell your property are gone. The big principal reductions for the most part are done, though we're still hearing some of those are happening in Florida to a limited extent on portfolio-owned loans only. But all that stuff that people are talking about, that stuff is really all gone, and that's ancient history in terms of what people are eligible for. But it wouldn't surprise me if they have a letter, and everybody who's eligible for these programs have been sent a letter from the bank. And they're either made it into the Lucky Gene pool or they didn't.
It's like the Chase $80,000 deal.
Yeah.
If you got the letter, then you get the money.
That's why I say, show me the letter. That's why I say, well, show me the letter that you got. If you were eligible, you would have received the letter from the bank already.
Absolutely. So for those that are what I like to call third party to the list, that's getting a nugget out of this call. What I'm saying is buy the monster, because you're ridiculous if you don't. I don't know any other program that'll get you face-to-face, guaranteed for only 20 tags. I'll get you in front of at least 4 homeowners in less than an hour's worth of work. I'm not charging enough for a ridiculously simple program. Get the deal. Give it to David. Go back. Repeat you should do 1 deal per week. Go get it, lock it up, go out that weekend, put it under contract with both ends of the deal on Saturday. Then on Monday, start again. Your week wouldn't even be that hard.
Lee, I've got to interrupt you, okay? And I know we got to go, okay? But here's how I know Monster works. I'm getting those files from the guys that are out there doing the Monster and telling me how incredible it is, okay? So the bottom line is that people who don't have any idea how to get listing are getting the Monsters, and they're going out and getting listings. And I know that because they're sending me the deals, and then they're going out and getting another one, and they're sending me the deal, and they're just doing exactly what you say, and they're keeping it simple. And people ask me what my secret is here. It's the same as yours. With you and I, we are kind of kindred spirits. All we've done in the short sale negotiation is the same thing that you've done and marketing. And we've taken a relatively complicated process, and we've made it simple.
Yeah.
And
when you do that, it's revolutionary.
Exactly. And the biggest mistake people make is that they see complication, and so they get paralyzed and they do nothing. And all we've done is take what people perceive as complicated and made it simple. Because the reality was, it really was simple in the first place, and we made it complicated. All we're doing is uncomplicating what we made complicated by overthinking it.
Absolutely. So I've wondered this. Have you, okay, I'm going to go off topic. But have you ever wondered why, I know you're a Proctor guy, but why the quote-unquote marketing trainers still avoid teaching people how to get short sale listings?
Well, I don't think they know how to get short sale listings, Lee. I think they've been so removed from the market that they don't. I mean, even Craig Proctor. I listened to a coaching call the other day, and somebody asked him, about can you double end a deal, and Craig says, well, I don't know. On a short sale, I don't know. I don't know why they would compress your commission. I mean, I love Craig and what he's teaching, but when it comes to the short sale segment of the market, I don't think these guys understand it enough. If you don't understand that basic question, you can't really coach anybody on that segment of the market. So I think you're filling a big gap in the marketplace. And if they're using a Craig Proctor or Tom Ferry or Mike or Corcoran or all those guys that are out there, then they're still missing this component of it, and they should add it to their coaching. And if they were only going to add one component, and they really wanted to get into what is becoming a less competitive market again, because people think short sales are over, which is ridiculous, with 26% of the market still underwater, then this is where I would start, because there's a lot less competition for these listings.
Do you see any drop-off in the number of files you're getting?
I've seen it. Yeah, there's a drop-off in the number of files, only because foreclosure starts are down.
Right.
But foreclosure starts have started increasing again month over month the last couple months. So now so that motivates sellers to list. So it looks like everybody's gotten. What we're seeing is as foreclosures start rising again, and they are, then short sale listings go up proportionally as sellers get in fear of losing their house.
Yeah, we probably should talk a little market, because you have a different, unique looking. I look at the marketing end of it, and I constantly say this guy is falling, because you and I both know Eric Mitchell, who made me obsessed with QE3 and the buybacks and the whole thing. And I agreed with him completely. I'm like, I just never examined it that closely, and he nailed it. Long before it happened, Eric was just walking around and telling QE3, watch, interest rate will go up, this whole thing will freeze.
Yeah, and he's saying they're going to go to double digits.
Right.
And he also says every point the interest rates go up, you're going to have a 10% decline in market value. So prices are a lot more likely to go down than up. And so these homeowners that are sitting on the fence thinking, if it goes up another 10%, I'm out of the woods. Well, my feeling is that we're at the top of the market. At least we're at plateaued, not at the top of the market, but we plateaued for the time being, and we're getting ready to get into the soft season, and it's likely that we're going to go sideways and even down until next spring. So, it's a good time to sell. And one other reason to go out and get listings right now, Lee, I'm sorry, I know we have to go.
No, we have time. I don't want to manipulate, capitalize.
Well, we want these guys to go out and get listings, but I think that people are forgetting, because I don't hear people talking about it, is that the Debt Relief Act is expiring at the end of the year. So people who want to make sure, don't want to bet on the extension coming again, they need to get, if it's taken 4 to 6 months to get 3 to 5, 4 to 6 months to get a short sale listed to close that period, they need to get listed right now and get into negotiations right now to make sure they close by the end of the year. So if you think that interest rates are going up, prices are going to go sideways to down, and the Debt Relief Act is not going to be extended, they have no choice but to sell today. And we need to find those people and get them that information so they can make the best decision for their families.
Yeah, and that's a great marketing tip. Okay, so putting it all together for everybody one more time, because we did market, we did investor. Boy, this is a good call. I'm going to have to do more calls with David. And it certainly gets me off the hook of creating content each week.
Well, we did prepare for this call for about 30 seconds. Did you say, I'll just call you and then we'll just have a conversation.
Yeah, we'll just have a conversation. Like, I can ask, like, bank stuff all day, which is, what do you think about the B of A? Here's a good one that'll, I'm sure you've gotten a few. What about B of A and the alleged loan mod scandal that's all over the news? Does that affect short sales?
No.
Yes. Yes, it completely affects it. David Sunland is no longer at Bank of America for some miraculous reason. I was the first guy to notice, hey, David Sunland's gone and Matt Vernon's back. Wonder what's going on at B of A.
I don't know those guys, but it's business. B of A's just getting out of the servicing business, so they're less
in a lot of trouble.
Yeah,
I'll say for the record, for anybody listening, you can go and see what they had to do court-wise